What if I told you there was a way to reclaim 6 hours of your day every single day? Imagine having 22 hours to pursue your passions, finish your projects, learn a new language, or simply enjoy life. This is not a fantasy from a science fiction novel, but the tantalizing promise of polyphasic sleep. It's an idea that whispers a seductive question into the ear of our chronically busy, productivity-obsessed society. What could you accomplish if you didn't have to waste a third of your life unconscious in bed? The concept is simple, yet its implications are profound, suggesting we can slice and dice our sleep into small, efficient portions, thereby unlocking a vast reservoir of waking hours. This promise is immensely appealing in our modern world, where time feels like the most precious and scarce commodity. We are constantly bombarded with messages to do more, be more, and achieve more. The fear of missing out, both socially and professionally, creates a relentless pressure to stay connected and productive around the clock. In this context, the traditional 8-hour block of sleep can start to feel like an inconvenient biological necessity, a frustrating interruption to our ambitions. Polyphasic sleep, therefore, presents itself as the ultimate life hack, a way to conquer our biology and bend time to our will. The allure is amplified by stories, often anecdotal, of historical geniuses and modern-day tech gurus who supposedly thrived on these fragmented sleep patterns. We hear whispers that Leonardo da Vinci and Nikola Tesla owed their prolific creativity to such schedules, fueling the myth that less sleep equals more genius. These tales create a powerful narrative that links sleep reduction with extraordinary achievement, making it tempting to believe that we too could unlock our hidden potential if only we could break free from the shackles of a full night's rest. It's a compelling story, one that taps directly into our deepest desires for self-improvement and exceptionalism. But before we rush to set alarms for 20-minute naps every 4 hours, we must pause and ask a critical question. Is this promise real, or is it a dangerous illusion? Does hacking our sleep truly unlock human potential, or does it simply open the door to chronic sleep deprivation, with all its well-documented and devastating consequences for our brains and bodies? Our journey into the world of polyphasic sleep is not just an exploration of time management. It is a critical investigation into the fundamental, non-negotiable role that sleep plays in every aspect of our health, wellness, and very humanity. The stakes are far higher than just a few extra hours in the day. To understand polyphasic sleep, we must first understand how most of us sleep now. The vast majority of adults in the industrialized world follow a monophasic sleep pattern. This means we take our sleep in one long, consolidated block, typically lasting 7 to 9 hours during the night. This pattern is so deeply ingrained in our culture that we often consider it the only normal way to sleep. Our work schedules, school hours, and social lives are all built around this single, continuous period of rest. It is the bedrock upon which modern society has organized its daily rhythm, a silent agreement to collectively power down for a third of each day. Slightly different is the biphasic sleep pattern, which involves 2 periods of sleep per day. The most common form of this is a long block of sleep at night, supplemented by a shorter nap in the afternoon. Think of the traditional siesta in Mediterranean and Latin American cultures. This pattern is quite natural. Many people experience a dip in alertness in the early afternoon, a biological signal that our brains would welcome a brief rest. Biphasic sleep is still practiced by a significant portion of the world's population and is far more biologically aligned with our natural rhythms than many of the more extreme schedules we are about to explore. It doesn't radically reduce total sleep time, but rather redistributes it. Now we arrive at polyphasic sleep, which literally means sleeping in multiple phases. Instead of 1 or 2 sleep periods, a polyphasic sleeper breaks their total sleep into many short bouts throughout a 24-hour cycle. The core idea is to drastically reduce the total amount of time spent sleeping, sometimes to as little as 2 hours per day, by training the body to enter the most restorative stage of sleep, REM, almost immediately upon dozing off. Proponents believe this eliminates the unnecessary lighter stages of sleep, creating a more efficient, streamlined process. It's a radical departure from the norm, fragmenting rest into a series of carefully timed micro-recharges. These schedules are not a monolith. They exist on a spectrum of intensity. Some, like the Everyman schedule, include a longer core sleep at night supplemented by several short naps during the day, totaling perhaps 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Others, like the infamous Uberman schedule, eliminate the core sleep entirely, replacing it with 6 or more 20-minute naps spaced evenly throughout the day and night. The common thread is the fragmentation and severe reduction of total sleep time. This fundamental restructuring of our daily cycle challenges everything we think we know about the necessity of long, uninterrupted rest for our minds and bodies. Among the pantheon of polyphasic schedules, the Uberman is perhaps the most famous and the most extreme. It consists of 6 20-minute naps, spaced evenly every 4 hours, for a grand total of just 2 hours of sleep per day. There is no longer core sleep at night. Your entire existence is punctuated by these brief moments of rest. The theoretical goal is to force the brain into a state of such intense sleep pressure that it bypasses the lighter stages of sleep and dives directly into REM and deep slow-wave sleep. The difficulty of adapting to and maintaining this schedule is, as its name suggests, superhuman. Missing even a single nap can lead to a complete system crash, resulting in overwhelming fatigue and cognitive impairment. A slightly more forgiving yet still highly demanding alternative is the Everyman schedule. This pattern attempts to bridge the gap between monophasic living and a fully polyphasic lifestyle. It features a main core sleep of about 3.5 hours at night, supplemented by 3 20-minute naps spread throughout the day. The total sleep time is around 4.5 hours. This schedule is often seen as more manageable because the core sleep provides a more substantial anchor for rest, making it somewhat easier to adhere to within the constraints of a typical daily routine. However, it still represents a significant reduction in sleep and requires rigid discipline to maintain the nap schedule without fail. Then there is the Dymaxion schedule, named and supposedly practiced by the architect and inventor Buckminster Fuller. This schedule is even more intense than the Uberman in some respects, consisting of 4 30-minute naps every 6 hours, for a total of 2 hours of sleep per day. Fuller reportedly followed this routine for 2 years, claiming he felt incredibly energetic and productive, before quitting because his business associates couldn't keep up with his schedule. Like the Uberman, it requires an almost robotic adherence and leaves absolutely no room for error. The slightest deviation from the strict timing can result in a powerful wave of sleep-deprived exhaustion, making it untenable for most people. Finally, we have segmented sleep, which we will explore in more detail. This involves sleeping in 2 larger chunks of 3 to 4 hours each, separated by a period of wakefulness in the middle of the night. Unlike the other schedules, the goal of segmented sleep is not necessarily to reduce total sleep time, but to align with a more natural ancestral pattern. Totaling 6 to 8 hours, it is not about sleep deprivation but sleep redistribution. While it seems more natural, implementing it in a world built for monophasic sleep presents its own unique set of challenges, from social schedules to the pervasive glow of artificial light that can disrupt our internal clocks. Each of these schedules offers a different philosophy on how to structure rest, from radical reduction to historical reconstruction. If you could travel back to the 17th century and ask someone how they slept, their answer might surprise you. They wouldn't talk about getting a solid 8 hours. Instead, they would likely describe their first sleep and their second sleep. This pattern, which historians have uncovered in countless diaries, letters, medical texts, and literary works, was the standard way of sleeping for centuries, long before the Industrial Revolution. People would go to bed shortly after dusk, sleep for about 4 hours, and then wake up sometime after midnight. This period of quiet wakefulness in the middle of the night was not considered insomnia. It was a normal and valued part of the daily rhythm. This waking period, lasting for 1 to 2 hours, was known as the watch, and was a time for various quiet activities. It was a unique and peaceful part of the day, free from the labor and social obligations of daytime. People would use this time to pray, meditate on their dreams, read by candlelight, or engage in quiet conversation with their spouse or family members. It was also considered a prime time for intimacy. For many, this was a cherished period of introspection and calm, a stark contrast to the harried pace of our modern lives. The darkness and silence offered a space for reflection that has been all but lost to us today. So what happened to this deeply ingrained cultural practice? The answer lies in the advent of public street lighting and later the electric light bulb. As cities began to light up the night, the clear boundary between day and night started to blur. The evening hours, once reserved for winding down, became an extension of the day, a time for work, socializing, and entertainment. This social and technological shift began to push bedtimes later and later, consolidating the 2 separate sleep periods into a single, uninterrupted block. The Industrial Revolution, with its rigid factory schedules and emphasis on maximizing productivity, further cemented monophasic sleep as the new norm. This historical perspective is crucial because it challenges our modern assumption that a single 8-hour block of sleep is the only natural way for humans to rest. Our biology may, in fact, be more flexible and better suited to a biphasic or segmented pattern than we realize. The anxiety many people feel when they wake up in the middle of the night, a condition we now label as middle-of-the-night insomnia, might not be a disorder at all. Instead, it could be the faint echo of an ancestral sleep pattern, a biological rhythm struggling to express itself in a world that no longer has a place for it. While the idea of returning to a segmented sleep pattern might sound appealingly natural, attempting to implement it in the 21st century is, honestly, fraught with difficulty. The primary culprit is our environment, which is now just saturated with artificial light. Our ancestors' sleep was governed by the natural cycle of sun and darkness. For us though, the night is never truly dark. Light from our phones, tablets, televisions, and even streetlights outside our windows sends a powerful signal to our brains. Stay awake. This light, especially the blue light from screens, actively suppresses the production of melatonin, which is the crucial hormone that signals our body it's time to sleep, and that makes it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. But beyond light, our modern schedules are fundamentally incompatible with a segmented sleep pattern. The 9-to-5 workday, which, let's be honest, is often much longer, demands that we be alert and functional during a specific continuous block of time. Imagine explaining to your boss that, hey, you need to leave a meeting because it's time for your second core sleep. Our social lives are similarly structured. Evening events, dinners, and entertainment often extend late into the night, pushing our initial bedtime far past the point where a natural first sleep could begin. Waking up for 2 hours at 1 a.m. becomes, well, pretty impractical when you have to be at your desk, fully functional, at 8 a.m. There's also a significant psychological and social barrier. For generations we've been conditioned to believe that waking up in the middle of the night is a sign of a problem, a form of insomnia that needs fixing. This belief can create anxiety. So, when someone trying segmented sleep wakes up, they might worry about whether they'll be able to get back to sleep for their second block, a fear that can, ironically, keep them awake. Furthermore, sleeping in a different pattern from a partner or family can create both logistical and emotional challenges, sometimes isolating the individual and disrupting the household's shared rhythm of life. Ultimately, successfully adopting a segmented sleep pattern today would require a radical restructuring of one's entire life. It would mean creating a sanctuary of true darkness in the bedroom, fiercely protecting an early bedtime against all social pressures, and honestly, cultivating a mindset that embraces nighttime wakefulness rather than fearing it. It would also likely require a flexible work schedule that accommodates this unusual rhythm. For the vast majority of people who are bound by the rigid timetables of modern society, these hurdles are simply too high to overcome, making segmented sleep, for now, a historical curiosity rather than a practical alternative. When we move beyond historical anecdotes and into the realm of controlled scientific research, the case for radical polyphasic sleep begins to look, honestly, incredibly weak. One of the most cited figures in the polyphasic community is Dr. Claudio Stampi, who conducted research on solo long-distance sailors. These sailors, have to remain vigilant for extended periods, and naturally adopt polyphasic sleep patterns out of sheer necessity. Stampi's studies back in the 1980s found that by using a schedule of short-time naps, sailors could maintain a surprising level of performance. However, it's really critical to note two things. Their performance, while functional, was still significantly impaired compared to their fully rested state, and this was an extreme survival strategy, not a recommended lifestyle for optimal health and productivity. More recent and controlled experiments have painted an even more concerning picture. A notable study published in the Journal of Sleep Research documented a group of young adults attempting the Uberman schedule. The results, well, they were not encouraging. While the participants did show an increase in the proportion of REM sleep during their naps, a sign that the brain was desperately trying to compensate, they also suffered from significant cognitive deficits. They performed poorly on tests of memory, vigilance, and executive function. The researchers concluded that the schedule was not sustainable and that the so-called efficiency gained by skipping light sleep stages came at the cost of overall brain function. The brain needs all sleep stages, not just REM. From the perspective of sleep science, the fundamental premise of extreme polyphasic sleep is flawed. The idea that we can simply train our brains to eliminate junk sleep and focus only on REM and deep sleep really misunderstands the intricate architecture of a healthy sleep cycle. Each stage of sleep, from the light stages of NREM 1 and 2 to the deep restorative NREM 3, also called slow-wave sleep, and finally REM, serves a unique and vital purpose. Light sleep helps with memory consolidation, while deep sleep is essential for physical repair, hormone regulation, and flushing metabolic waste from the brain. To willfully deprive yourself of these stages is to play a dangerous game with your long-term health. Leading sleep experts are nearly unanimous in their caution against these schedules. The overwhelming scientific consensus is that, for the vast majority of the population, fragmenting and severely restricting sleep leads to the classic symptoms of chronic sleep deprivation. This includes impaired judgment, reduced immune function, increased risk of cardiovascular disease, metabolic issues like diabetes, and mood disorders. While the body can adapt to some degree out of sheer necessity, this adaptation is a state of perpetual crisis management, not a state of optimal healthy functioning. The science is clear. There is no known biological hack that can safely replace a full, consolidated night of sleep. Despite the daunting scientific evidence, the allure of polyphasic sleep really does persist. Why are people still drawn to these grueling and potentially harmful schedules? A primary driver is the relentless cult of productivity that defines our modern culture. We live in a society that glorifies the hustle, where being busy is a status symbol and rest is often equated with laziness. In this environment, sleeping for 8 hours can actually feel like a failure of ambition. Polyphasic sleep offers a seductive narrative that you can outwork, outlearn, and outcreate everyone else by simply conquering your biological need for rest. It's presented as the ultimate competitive edge. This appeal is powerfully amplified by the mythology surrounding historical figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Nikola Tesla, who are often cited as polyphasic sleepers. The idea that their genius was fueled by a radical sleep schedule is, honestly, a compelling story. However, the historical evidence for these claims is exceptionally thin, often based on unverified rumors or misinterpretations of their habits. For instance, the claim about Da Vinci comes from a single, questionable biography written centuries after his death. Whether true or not, these myths serve to legitimize the pursuit of sleep reduction, framing it as a path to greatness, rather than a path to exhaustion. Another significant draw, especially for those interested in exploring consciousness, is the promise of more frequent and vivid lucid dreams. Lucid dreaming is the experience of becoming aware that you are dreaming while still in the dream state. Because extreme polyphasic schedules cause the brain to enter REM sleep more quickly and frequently, many practitioners report a dramatic increase in the number of lucid dreams they experience. For some, this exploration of the inner world of the mind is a powerful motivator, a form of psychonautical adventure that seems worth the price of daytime fatigue. It really becomes a trade-off sacrificing waking clarity for dream control. Ultimately, the desire to try polyphasic sleep often stems from a deeply human place, the desire to be more than we are, to transcend our limitations. It taps into the same impulse that drives athletes to break records and explorers to venture into the unknown. The polyphasic sleeper sees themselves as a pioneer, a biohacker optimizing the human machine. This self-perception can be very powerful, creating a community and an identity built around shared discipline and a rejection of conventional norms. The challenge itself becomes part of the reward, a testament to one's willpower and dedication, even if the biological cost is pretty steep. When we compare the supposed benefits of short, fragmented naps with the scientifically proven power of a full, continuous night of sleep, there is just, honestly, no contest. A healthy night's sleep is not just a period of inactivity, it's actually an incredibly complex and vital biological process. Over the course of 7 to 9 hours, your brain methodically cycles through different stages of sleep, each with a distinct and indispensable function. This carefully orchestrated symphony of brainwaves is essential for your mind and body to repair, reset, and prepare for the day ahead. Fragmenting this process is like, well, trying to bake a cake by turning the oven on and off every 10 minutes. You will never get the finished product. The most critical stage for physical restoration is NREM stage 3, also known as deep sleep or slow-wave sleep. During this time, your body really gets to work. Your pituitary gland releases growth hormone, which is essential for repairing tissues, building bone and muscle, and strengthening the immune system. Your brain also performs a critical housekeeping task. A network of channels called the glymphatic system opens up, flushing out metabolic byproducts and toxic proteins like beta amyloid, which is linked to Alzheimer's disease, that accumulate during waking hours, severely reducing your total sleep time, as polyphasic schedules demand, starves your brain and body of this essential maintenance period. Then there is REM sleep, the stage most associated with dreaming, but its function goes far beyond just creating bizarre narratives. REM sleep is crucial for emotional and mental health. It acts as a form of overnight therapy, helping to process difficult emotional experiences and recalibrate the brain's emotional circuits. It's also vital for creativity, problem-solving, and consolidating complex procedural memories, like learning to play a musical instrument or mastering a new skill. While polyphasic schedules attempt to maximize REM sleep, they do so at the expense of the deep sleep that must precede it, disrupting the natural balance and architecture required for optimal brain function. Short naps can be beneficial, but they are a supplement to, not a replacement for, a full night of sleep. A 20 to 30-minute power nap can improve alertness and performance in the short term, but it primarily consists of lighter sleep stages. It simply cannot provide the deep, restorative slow-wave sleep or the full cycles of REM sleep that your brain and body require each night. Relying solely on naps is like trying to nourish yourself with only vitamin supplements while foregoing actual meals. You might survive for a while, but you will not thrive. The 8-hour sleep opportunity is a non-negotiable, fundamental pillar of health. As we conclude our exploration, we really have to weigh the perceived benefits of polyphasic sleep against its well-documented risks. On the pros side, the arguments are almost entirely centered on one thing: more time. The promise of gaining extra waking hours for productivity, learning, or leisure is undeniably the primary motivation. For a very small, and likely genetically unique minority of individuals, some less extreme polyphasic schedules might be temporarily sustainable. Anecdotal reports also point to an increase in lucid dreaming, which some people find to be a rewarding experience. However, these potential benefits are narrow and come with a very significant list of caveats and dangers. The cons list, grounded in decades of scientific research, is extensive and honestly pretty alarming. The core risk is chronic sleep deprivation. Even if one adapts to a schedule like Everyman or Uberman, the brain and body remain in a deprived state. This leads to impaired cognitive function, including poor memory, reduced problem-solving ability, and flawed judgment. Physically, the risks include a weakened immune system, hormonal imbalances, increased stress levels, and a significantly higher risk of developing serious long-term health conditions such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and even certain types of cancer. The risk of accidents due to microsleeps and impaired reaction time also increases dramatically. From a practical standpoint, the rigidity of these schedules makes them almost impossible to maintain within the framework of modern life. A missed nap can derail the entire system, leading to what's called a sleep crash. This makes it incredibly difficult to hold a regular job, maintain social relationships, or deal with life's unpredictable events. The social isolation that results from living on a completely different clock from the rest of the world can also take a significant toll on mental health. The pursuit of superhuman productivity can, ironically, lead to a life that is less connected, less spontaneous, and ultimately, less human. Therefore, my recommendation is clear and unwavering. For the overwhelming majority of people, experimenting with extreme polyphasic sleep is a risky and ill-advised gamble with your health. Instead of searching for ways to cheat sleep, we should focus on improving the quality of the sleep we get. This means prioritizing a consistent sleep schedule, creating a dark, cool, and quiet sleep environment, avoiding caffeine and alcohol before bed, and getting regular exercise. A well-rested mind is a more creative, productive, and resilient mind. The true life hack is not to sleep less, but to sleep better, honoring the profound and irreplaceable biological necessity of a full